So our next talks are actually focused on flash talks. So the ability to quickly condense information that's really complex into a short amount of time. And so I want to introduce our next speakers. Oh, you guys, so sorry. Okay, so Juliet DaCosta and Michelle Vieira. Oh, come on up. And they're going to talk about promoting safe medication practices by increasing nurses' capacity to prevent errors. Thank you.
Just the clicker is
right here.
Okay. So I'll put it between both of us.
Yeah, different heights here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juliet DaCosta. I'm a nurse on the cardiology medicine unit at Toronto Western Hospital.
And my name is Michelle Vieira, and I am a nurse here at the Cardiac Investigation Unit on 3 AFL here at Toronto Western.
And we're here to promote our CREMBL project, which is promoting safe medication practices by increasing nurses' capacity to prevent medication errors.
So just a quick agenda here. We'll talk a little bit about the background of our project overview, some outcomes and impact, and sustainability and next steps. So on a cardiology GIM unit here, staff nurses have reported a total of 54 medication errors from January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015. This is an average of about 4.5 medication errors per month, with the medication errors ranging from near misses to severe errors. Studies have recognized interruptions as heavy workload, complex work environments, and some of the causes of medication errors. These issues have been informally observed by our staff nurses here on the cardiology unit as possible contributing factors towards making medication errors. Additionally, medications that belong to drug classes like the central nervous system agents, including analgesics and sedatives, blood formation and coagulation agents like heparin and warfarin, and some cardiovascular drugs like furosemide have been identified as commonly involved drug classes in medication errors. These are the types of medications that are regularly ordered, prepared, and administered on the cardiology GIM unit here. So in order to develop appropriate interventions to prevent medication errors, studies state that it's necessary to explore the human environmental workflow process that influences the nurses' complex work environments so that we may understand how they can contribute towards nurses making medication errors. This led myself and Juliet to our CREMBL project, as we wanted to discover these human environmental workflow processes on our respective unit and increase the staff nurses' capacity to prevent these errors from happening. So the purpose of our project was to explore the current medication practices and the factors influencing them on our unit, in order to develop our appropriate interventions to assist our staff nurses in the prevention of medication errors and the promotion of our safe medication practices. So in the phase one of our project, we wanted to identify the nurses' perceived needs as any barriers related to safe medication practices and potential factors that can lead to the medication errors from happening. We distributed medication practice surveys to the staff nurses. We interviewed the staff nurses, either one-on-one or through focus groups. We did 9 on-site observations of our unit workflow during medication preparation and administration, and reviewed summaries of incident reports. This is just an example of our survey. It's kind of hard to read on the screen there. But these surveys also included questions about the effectiveness of the current medication error prevention interventions that were already in place on the unit, like the cautionary do not disturb signs and the protected administration times. So the protected medication administration times were designated time blocks such as 9, 9:30 or 10, 10:30 that were meant to be times when nurses could prepare, administer medications to their patients without getting interrupted by call bells or phone calls.
So after consolidating and analyzing our data, we found that there are 5 main factors that could potentially lead to medication errors. So these were interruptions and distractions, equipment, provider factors, provider meaning the nurses themselves, team factors, so these were their pharmacists, physicians, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, other allied health, and ineffective signage. So the top interruptions and distractions that were perceived by the staff nurses and that were observed by myself and Michelle were nurses having non-medication related conversations in the medication room with each other, nurses having non-medication related conversations with their patients and family members at the time of medication administration preparation, nurses interrupting themselves to leave the bedside to get things like PRN medications like Tylenols or equipment like pill cutters or pill crushers, nurses being interrupted by call bells, bed alarms, and nurses being interrupted by phone calls from other departments and other team members. In regards to equipment, the nurses perceived that equipment played a large role in contributing towards making medication errors, as our electronic patient records, or EPR, on the portable workstations would sometimes freeze, which would require the nurses to have to interrupt their own medication process, shut the entire system down to reboot it. So usually they were always in the middle of already preparing the medications and they would have to start all over again. These workstations would also lose Wi-Fi connection, which would require the stopping and the rebooting. So even though we grouped these under equipment, it did contribute to interruptions and distractions for the nurses. From incident reports, some provider factors were nurses not completing appropriate double checks for high alert medications, nurses feeling rushed, stressed, or busy while having a heavy patient workload. And 36% of our surveyed nurses stated that the protected medication administration times just didn't work for them because they were already doing things like documentation or having to take their breaks at that time. So some team factors were physicians not entering the right medications or unauthorized medications entered that would have to be verified. And then ineffective signage was related to our current signage on the unit, which didn't communicate our medication processes. The stop signs being at waist level or behind the workstations, so people would not be able to see them. So just to complement what was already being done on the unit, we made signs that were clearer for patients and other healthcare team members. We used the universal stop sign to communicate with our non-English speaking patients to say that if they see the sign, it does signal for them to just pause before interrupting the nurse. We made yellow posters that we put into the patient medication rooms just to inform patients and their family members that if they do see the stop sign, that this does mean that the nurse is in the middle of medication process. We also created algorithms because we asked the nurses why they were having non-medication related conversations with their patients at the bedside. So the nurses were being strategic with their time. They wanted to address their patients' concerns all at the same time when they knew that they were going to have to be at their patient's bedside for a longer period of time. But sometimes they would get lost in those conversations and they wouldn't be able to redirect from them. So they ended up doing the medication process at the same time as well. So we just created algorithms to help them redirect the conversation or to be proactive in initiating these conversations before the medication prep time and administration time. That algorithm's on the left side, and the one on the right side is for the nurses to mitigate any kind of interruptions in the hallways. So they would have to ask the healthcare team members, is this an emergency? And if it isn't, could we redirect the question or the message to another time, or to one of our colleagues, or to our unit clerk and leave a message with them. We also asked the nurses why they were having medication-related conversations in the med prep room, and they indicated that this was a time for them to actually increase their camaraderie with each other. The nurses don't usually end up having breaks with each other, so they can't catch up with each other. This was just a way for them to kind of get to know each other on a more personal level, and again, they were being strategic with their time. They were doing it at a time when they knew that they would be together, and that was usually during medication prep time in the mornings or in the afternoons. So we just created a gentle reminder poster just to say not to have these conversations during med prep time, but we recognize the fact that you might need that private space, which is in the med prep room, to have those conversations. So to just continue that process or to not do that process until you finish with your conversation. We also told the nurses, we also encouraged nurses, I should say, to use the medication protection administration times according to when they were doing the actual preparation and administration of their medications. So whenever they were doing that with their patients, and if they were called on the call bell or called away to have to take a phone call, they would just indicate to their team member that's calling them, I'm in the middle of medication preparation and administration. Can you please take a message for me, or can you please check on my patient for me? So that way the nurses were not stepping away, were not interrupting themselves, and they were able to have flexible timings in terms of whenever they were giving medications. That was their protected administration time. So this is just a little review of the outcomes that came from our interventions. 52% of surveyed nurses stated that they used the revised stop sign, 62% used the algorithms, and then the biggest one is that 81% of the nurses stated that they used the flexible protected administration times.
So in terms of sustainability of our project, it has been affected with the stop signs and their attachments breaking off from the wows. A new call bell system has also been implemented on the cardiology GIM units. So the nurses are still trying to basically navigate that new system while trying to still practice the interventions. Some next steps of our project would probably include assisting the nurses with practicing safe medication practices in the context of their new equipment and environment, as well as targeting other identified factors, such as working with physicians in pharmacy. We can also explore the possibility of including patient partners and working with the HAC, focusing on safe medication practices here at UHN. Any questions?
Just a quick thank you to the Kremble Foundation for sponsoring us.
Any questions?
Yes.
I just have a question. It was great. I'm just curious with, I noticed that you did surveys to evaluate, for the evaluation of your strategies. Just wondering if there were any other strategies you used to assess the evaluation? Like, did you do virtual viewing?
We did 9 on-site observations of them preparing, of them administrating.
So we would actually witness that the nurses were interrupted when they were getting, when they were preparing and administering their medications. And then we also interviewed the nurses one-on-one to ask them why they think that they were getting interrupted. And they were the ones that indicated, well, the stop signs, the do not disturb signs that were already on there didn't help with preventing it, so they didn't feel like it was very helpful. Any other questions?
Thank you, Michelle and Julia.
Oh, one more.
Regarding the call bell system, do you think it's getting any better?
In terms of,
As far as nurses coping with the interruptions of the call bells?
so with the call bell system, it's, the nurses actually feel like there's less teamwork, whereas before there was more teamwork with the older call bell system, so it was easier for them to utilize their team members to mitigate the interruptions and distractions. Now with the new call bell system, they feel like that they're more isolated and more alone, so it's actually decreased, it's increased the amount of perception of interruptions and distractions that they're getting. Yeah. Any other? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Can we bring up Carla, Angelo? Carlo?
Yeah, so now we'd like to introduce our next speaker, Carlos Santiago, and he joins us actually from the nursing unit up on 9A right now, and they managed to facilitate his coverage, so he just ran down here, so he might need to take a second. Yeah, literally, he just ran down. So thank you very much, Carlo.
You need
So
a water? Is that my water?
Yeah, this is your water,
Yeah.
and you can go forward with this.
Oh, yeah.
And your slides are all there.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, guys. Well, I need exercise, you know? All right. Do I know somebody here? I don't think so. Anyway, my eyes are all blurred. Anyway, guys, let me just catch my breath for a bit. Because I ran, I thought it was 11:45. Anyway. All right. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Santiago. I'm a staff nurse from 9A Orthopedics. My Crumble project partner, Kamraj Suktaya, is not available to present with me today, but he promised me that he will be available in the future presentation. After all this running, right? Thank you for allowing me to speak with you in regards to our Crumble presentation. Evaluation of falls prevention strategies on 9A. So just a quick overview. 9A is an orthopedic unit that sees various cases involving knee, hip replacement, fractures, etc. Mobility plays a key factor on our unit, and alongside Kamraj, we are both active members on our falls committee. We discuss prevention strategies and also detail the falls that have occurred on our unit. We figured it made sense to have our first Scramble project related to the concept of falls prevention. This is our agenda for today. Project overview. Our project is set out to accomplish 3 goals: assess patients' perception of falls and their perceived knowledge of prevention strategies, assess the healthcare team perception of their education delivery to patients regarding fall preventions, evaluation of strategies that have worked and areas for improvement. Outcomes of project. The data was collected through patient and staff questionnaires, allowed for analysis on how effective fall prevention strategies were on our unit, what areas were recognized as strong, and what we can improve on. So these are the sample questionnaires that we gave to our patients. Okay, first question was, did the staff on 9A teach you about how to prevent falling in the hospital? 66% said yes, 20% said no, and 14% not sure. Number 2, did you find that the fall prevention posters in your room and around unit help you remember how to prevent falls? 65% say yes, 20% said no, and 15% did not see. Third question was the equipment in rooms such as call bells, walker, commode, light cord kept within your reach? 85% said always, 14% sometimes, and 1% never. Did you feel you needed to stand or walk unattended? 8% said yes, and 92% said no. Now, just to explain, first question, it says here, did the staff on 9A teach you about how to prevent falling in the hospital? Now, in 9A, we're really good in teaching the patients how to prevent falls. It just so happened because when I did my investigation on 2 patients, apparently we taught them how to prevent falls, but they're not sure that that's falls prevention. So that's what it is. So we're hoping we could get like 100% yes on if we did some teachings. We also have some questions for the staff. Do you consistently do patient-family teaching in regards to falls prevention? 54% say yes, 44% say occasionally, and 2% said no. Do you find the whiteboard mobility board in patients' room useful in falls prevention? 80% said yes, 10% said no, and 10% not sure. What falls prevention strategies do you find most effective? In our unit, it's the alarm, 100%. And the belongings, which is making sure the belongings are within reach, 76%. And the sign is 37%, poster 17, and that's it. And do you use the post-fall debrief form? Just to explain, this is the debrief form. I can't remember. I think we got it from sixth floor. It is? Thank you very much. Right, thank you. But anyway, I guess you guys know, yeah. This debrief form is about a form that we fill in after the initial, say if the patient fell, we fill in this form so it helps us do the online, what do you call that, the online incident report. And also we give this to our manager, so when she analyzes the incident report, she has some baseline data on the post-fall debrief form. So thank you very much for that, guys. So on our next slide, just comparing the 2016 falls and 2017 falls on 9A. Just look at that. These are the number of falls we had. So 2016, we had a lot. We had like 2 challenging patients, that's why. April and May is like 6 falls just between the 2 of them. Yeah, there you go. You know. 2017, we had less falls, but we still continue to implement our falls prevention strategies. So, what are the challenges to the project? Scheduling meetings, patients feeling pressured to complete questionnaire. They're thinking, why are you collecting this information? Is it confidential? What happens if I say no? Obviously, getting questions returned, patients misplacing, forgetting the surveys, patients asking to come back at a later time, you know, just to give the questionnaire and then they forget. Sustainability of the project, actively participating in professional development days and conferences, spread the awareness of fall preventions, discuss what challenges and success we have experienced, ability to disseminate collected data with staff, and to continue to brief staff about fall prevention at daily safety huddles, which is, ever since we have this, every morning we identify patients who are prone to falls, so at least everybody knows who are those patients and we're aware, right? Not just our own patients. What we've learned professionally, the importance of being diligent with handling and collecting data, encompassing entire sample population. Questionnaires were translated, staff questionnaires inclusive to entire hospital care team, and open communication with primary mentor, which is Natasha Briggs. I don't know if she's here though. I don't think so. What we've learned personally, being accountable to your group, creates a more positive experience, and setting important deadlines and meeting them. Attend every meeting with a planned agenda and timeline to accomplish goals. There you go, we don't have any considerations from the K&A committee. So what's the next step for our project? After we have read all the answers to all the questionnaires that we have passed to staff and patients, we were able to discuss with the staff about what patients think about the falls prevention. Because I've said earlier, patients thought that we didn't do anything about falls prevention teaching, but actually we did. It's just that they didn't know that it was a falls prevention. And also we collaborate with other falls prevention programs. We tried. I think we have like a monthly Toronto Western Falls meeting every third Thursday of the month. Yeah, so we're gonna try to attend that. First time that we tried to attempt, I guess it was canceled, the schedule. And then the other challenging thing for that too is, say if we're busy on the floor, it's hard to, to get out and attend the meeting, right? So but anyway, we're gonna try just to collaborate with other disciplines too. So this is just our K&A project completion form. And that's me and my partner. So hopefully he comes back. Anyway, if you have any questions, simple questions. Yes, I'm gonna wear my glasses now. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, going back to that, so these two patients are really challenging. All the falls prevention we did, trust me, we did everything. It's just that at the end of it, what we've come up is we have to have like a sitter, which, you know, is always an issue with budgets, right? But then again, we're going to consider the safety of the patient. Yes.
How many PCAs do you have on a unit during a day shift?
On a day shift, we have 2, plus 1 that's like long-term, whatever. Sometimes, you know, there's some sick calls, whatever, holidays, but normally we have 2 plus 1.
Just wondering if
Yeah.
that would have some effect because, like, if you have more PCAs, someone's able to attend to a patient
Yeah.
quicker
Yeah.
instead of them trying to get up on their own.
Well, I think during those dark years of 9A, 2016, our patients like 30, 32 or whatever, and then it's really impossible for us to be there on time. I mean, the alarm is engaged. It's just that they're so quick, right? They just want to get up. They don't care, right?
So I have a question. Because this is about the international exchange of ideas, how many of you are using a virtual sitter?
Yeah.
Trying to buy some time while they hit the button for the nurse and leave it over. And so for us, that's been an effective strategy.
But is it ethical?
Sorry?
Is that ethical in terms of privacy of patients?
Right. 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 There's a way, the question was that ethical? And we have a way of directing the camera in a different direction. If it's something private,
Yeah.
the patient, or people don't want to see.
Yeah, going back to that ethical issue too, let me just share you something. Because sometimes if a patient is in the bathroom, right, and you really don't want them to fall, so sometimes what we do is you open the door, so at least we could see whatever they're doing, and then sometimes I feel like, oh, this guy is looking at me, right? I don't know, right? I mean, we're all a team here. Maybe if you have any suggestions on how we could deal with it, but it's so hard, right? They don't realize that, you know, it's for their own safety.
Thank you so much, Carlo, for taking time.
Cheers. Yeah.
Next, we actually have a really fun way of learning your neuro skills. It's neuro bingo. So we're going to be people coming around passing out some little scorecards, and then we'll have our game.
Hi, everyone. So we're just passing around the Neuro Nurse Bingo game. And if you recall this morning, everyone filled out a little fun fact about themselves. Okay, so if you recall this morning, we all filled out a fun fact about ourselves, and we've actually implemented it into our bingo. So the point of this is a bit of an icebreaker. It's going to be 15 minutes. You have until 12 before lunch, and we want you all to just mingle and get to know everyone and fill out this form. So what you're going to do, you're going to find one person who fulfills this criteria, and you can only fill in the name of one person. So you can't double the name. And you'll have 15 minutes. We'll tell you it's until 12 o'clock. Okay, thank you.